Thank you very much. It is lovely to be here. Good morning, and it's nice to see so many people as well. Because if anything, as Natasha said, job ads are one of our biggest problems. So, by way of introduction, my name is Chris Woods, and I have the joy of having the longest job title here today. So my job is Regional Recruitment Marketing and EI&D Lead at Mars. But what does that actually mean? So I get the joy of essentially bringing more traditional marketing techniques in order to attract talent to Mars. And I have to include the second part of this because otherwise Natasha will force me to introduce Barney. So Barney is unofficially our Chief Barking Officer. Anyone that's been on a call with me will understand that, or anyone that has a Dachshund will also understand why he's called that. And Barney's in there because I am probably the person in this room that's managed to somehow base my entire personal brand off of my dog and have him as a stronger advocate for everything we do at Mars. But who is Mars? Mars is, I would hazard a guess, a company not many of you know individually, but a company that all of you in some capacity have engaged with. So Mars is 140,000 associates split across the world. We operate in about 70 different markets, and across 170 markets across the world, our products are loved and enjoyed by millions. We are about 120 years old, so very, very steeped in history, and there's a lot of history in the UK for us as well. Very proudly, we are in the UK the first most flexible large employer, and that's an advocate I had to slap on there very recently. And something that's really key is the fact that we're privately owned. So Mars is one of the world's largest privately owned businesses. We're still owned by the Mars family. That one won't shock many of you. But when you combine that with the size of our business, and I think that figure's actually slightly out of date, it's about $50 billion in global revenue. And then when you combine that with just the scale of our business as well, you'll really understand why we have some of these problems. So Mars is split across three main segments. So you've got Mars Pet Care, which is our biggest one. And in there you have brands that you will all know and love, well, probably not love, but your pets will love, like Pedigree, Whiskers, Royal Canin, and Dreamies. We then have a couple of different segments in there as well. So we're one of the world's largest veterinary services operators. So in the UK, we own a brand called Linnaeus. But globally, we have a number of vet practices as well. We have Royal Canin, which a lot of you will know because of your pets. And then we have some science and diagnostic stuff in there as well. The segment that most of you will know, though, is Mars Snacking. So within Mars Snacking, we've got brands that everyone knows and loves, like M&M's, Mars Bar, Snickers. We also have Kind, and most recently, which is very, very exciting, Hotel Chocolat will join the family as well. And then finally, we have Mars Food and Nutrition. So Ben's Original, Dolmio, Seeds of Change, and some other brands in there as well. And here's a question, and I couldn't talk about the previous brands we have without offering the first person to answer this, chocolate. I'm not actually really allowed to lob it out because Natasha's told me it's kind of, it's against the insurance policy, so we will gently pass it out, but I might throw it. So there's two answers I'll accept here. One is when you look at external, so LinkedIn, Indeed, Google, everything like that. And then one is on your own careers website. But the question is, how long does the average person spend reading a job ad before deciding whether to apply? So shout out two answers. First person to get one or both of the answers. 7 seconds, a little bit higher. 30, did someone say? 40, you can have that one for, well, you can choose actually, to be fair. You can, I'm going to do it like this now. You can choose some chocolate.
Oh, anything's fine. Thank you.
And then the other one, so that one is when people are looking at your careers website. But any guesses how long someone spends on average looking at your job posts on a site like LinkedIn? I heard 18. Who said that one? That's a very good guess. It's about 14 seconds. And I won't stand here like I was slightly tempted to do and put a 14-second timer on the screen and stand in awkward silence. But 14 seconds really isn't that long. So if you're considering reading and actually taking that information in and then deciding that is so short of a time. So you need to hook someone quickly to keep them interested. And it needs to be slightly more effective than that GIF because you need to hook them and not fly off with them. But how do we do that? And there's loads of key answers here. And I think the number one for me, and we'll go into individuals, but the absolutely most important thing you need to do is understand what the difference between a job ad and a job description is. So we've got these two. A job description should be your internal document. It shouldn't ever really be seen by candidates. It should be something you are looking at internally. It should be something your hiring managers are writing to really understand how that job fits in with the work you're doing, and to give them a good idea of pay, of responsibilities, of all that kind of stuff. A job advert is very, very, very different to that, and it should be something which is engaging. It should be something which sells to the candidate, and it should be something which is realistically external only. And the key for me there is when you look at all of your marketing material in general. And so if you are selling a product, how many times do you have like a full product description on a TV ad versus this lovely, shiny advert, which is curated, it's copywritten, and it's just got such a high production value? And that's the difference. Your advert should be your marketing material to gain people and to really appeal to them and tell them a story about what your job and working at your organization will be like. So there's a couple of different ways we can do that. Number one is when we go back to that point about reading a job ad, you're only reading it for about 14, 15 seconds. And so if you're reading an average words per minute, and that's about 200 or so words per minute, and then you're reading for that 14 seconds before deciding, your candidates are likely only reading about 58 words of your job ad before they're deciding whether to apply. And I'll let that sink in for a second, because 58 words is really not that much. I looked at, and this is part of a huge piece of research we did, and even when you go up and you look at 30 to 40 seconds on your careers website, yes, that's a few more words. You're getting up to maybe 200 words. But that person's already on your careers website, so there's already a buy-in. But when you're looking, and if you think about how much money you're spending on LinkedIn, Google Jobs, Indeed, Monster, any one of these job boards, you're spending so much money for someone to potentially only read 58 words. So what you really have to do is make sure that they're able to read as much of your job ad before moving on, and have as much of that clear and concise information up front from your ad before they move on. The optimal length for an advert, and this one is, I'm not the biggest fan of this stat, and I will caveat it because I appreciate when I say optimal length for an advert, 100 to 300 words, that's really not a lot. But this is the research. So when you do 100 to 300 words in your job ad, your apply rate will increase by about 8.4%. And I can vouch for these figures. I've done it on multiple occasions, A/B testing, and all the time it's increasing by between 5 and 10%. And any of you that look on LinkedIn and have got kind of maybe 1 to 5% engagement rate on your ads, I promise you, if you shorten them and you make them more concise, you will get more applies. And that's a real key bit of information. But as we go through, you'll see a running theme. It's not just about cutting that ad. It's not just about culling that information. It's about making sure that's really, really valuable information up front as well. Talk to your audience. So that's not just in there because of what I'm doing right now, but it's really important to talk to your audience. So I'll go slightly off on a tangent here, but one of the key bits of information for me when I'm looking at connecting with someone is, how do we tell a story? And that's what a job ad is. It's telling a story. We have now got past a point where TA or recruitment or talent acquisition or HR can just put a job ad out. It's on us now to appeal to a candidate. It's on us to do the work and make that candidate experience even better. But how do we do that? And this one's really key for me. So you need to start using language like, in this role, you will, or even better, you'll X. And the reason behind that is because you really need, in those 14 seconds, someone to fully imagine themselves in the role. So you need to go through and by saying you will do X, that person is fully imagining themselves in that, doing that. And it sounds like a lot, but that's how the human brain works, rather than the job holder will. Because what you're saying to that person is, that's not you. You're not the job holder, it's someone else. If you go and do this, that's what you're going to do. And I will also caveat a lot of this, because there's a lot of faces looking at me like, we're already doing this, it's fine. Job ads will never stop. It's all about kind of customizing, testing and learning, engaging your audience in different ways, and finding out what works for you. What's in it for me, or with him, as I love to say, but I decided to avoid the with him on here. But it's really key to understand that people are busy. And we are massively selfish creatures, whether we like to admit it or not. But when it comes to a job ad, it's on you to sell to the candidate and tell them what's in it for them. So by applying to this job, what will I be doing? But making it really clear, and it's, please, can we move away from talking about like, you must know about teams and stuff like that, because we're in 2024. But people want to know what they get from you, not what they will give to you. And that's really, really key. So if you look down this side, you'll see that when we're talking about job ads, people, and this is from LinkedIn's Global Hiring Trends, but people want to know about compensation, qualifications, job details, and performance goals. They're not bothered about company details, and I'll come on to this one in a moment. They're not generally bothered about career growth, because I think career growth is so unique to the company and the individual. So you can say in this that you will become a senior within 1 year, but will they? And that's another key point, is don't lie on that job ad unless you are actually going to deliver that. But you really need to be delivering on those bottom 4 or 5 things before you go up. So you need to show compensation, required qualifications, and please, please, please remove the degree requirement if you don't actually need it. Prime example with me is I have a degree. I'm a recruitment marketing lead, but my degree is in sports science. And I can tell you about what cold water shock does, but that is absolutely irrelevant when it comes to how to hire talent through traditional marketing. But what makes me more or less talented because I have that degree than someone that's been doing the role potentially longer than me that doesn't have that degree? And give them the key job details up front as well. So they want to know what they're doing. Let the job do the talking. And only, if you go back to the last stat, but I've included it there, is only 28% of people want to know about your company culture. And so don't waste precious words talking about your company when all of that information should be available somewhere else. So there aren't many job boards or types of media where that person is seeing your job ad without being able to click through to something else about your company. So let them decide if they like the role first, sell to them first, and then make it really easy and available to find out more about your culture. And a lot of you are probably looking at the ping pong table image there and thinking, okay, why is that company culture? It's not. Please stop putting that we have a ping pong table and we offer free fruit in the office as something which highlights your company culture. It doesn't. Those are arguably benefits. Those are what might make your office unique. And I'm not saying don't have a ping pong table in the office, because certainly in previous roles in companies I've needed to play a bit of ping pong to get by. But what you need to do is make sure you're talking about what your culture is, what someone feels in your organization. Your culture is how someone engages with your business, and your culture is how someone and your business work together to create, as Mars would say, the world we want tomorrow. So make sure that you put that information up front. It can be on your careers website, it can be on your LinkedIn profile, it can be on any number of other media, but don't have that at the top. I think when I did this research in 2021, 2022, as the first round of this, what we saw was that people were reading up to about 100 words in our job ads, but all of that was Mars information, and all of that was repeated elsewhere. So you can find that, and generally that lowered our application rate. So once we removed that, we saw our applications shoot up again. Define success early on. And if you haven't seen this, I really highly encourage, I can send the link to anyone or search it. It's LinkedIn's heat map of a job ad. So they update this every couple of years. But this is basically where people are looking on your job advert. And so the really key part here we see is we've got salary here, but the second most popular part is what success looks like. And I would argue most of us really want to go into a role knowing, is this for me? But also, am I going to succeed here? No one wants to enter a role and find that the success criteria is so far off what they can actually achieve. So the key call out here for me is start to include 1, 6, 12-month success goals where possible. This is your chance to really engage with talent and tell them, and they can then take this information, apply, but also through the interview process, they're then able to take that, absorb it, and build questions and understand and create a dialogue with hiring managers in interviews. And this one is one of my favorite ones, but be inclusive from the outset. So many job adverts are not inclusive. And what you are doing by not tailoring your adverts to as wide audience as possible is just alienating half of them. And so the stat I love, and you will slightly hear different versions of this, but this is about the closest to the truth you can get. And again, we did some research on this as well. Men apply when they meet 60% of the requirements on your job ad. So if you've got 10 requirements listed, and one of those is ability to use Teams, men will apply when they meet 6 of those. Women will apply when they meet all 10. So genuinely, the longer list, and I have seen some horrible lists, kind of 20, 30, 40 requirements, the longer that list, all you're doing is removing women from your pipeline. That's all you're doing. So start to create inclusive adverts by just including 3 to 5 must-haves, and this should be the top 3 to 5 must-haves. And then you can include some nice-to-haves as well. But the key here is try to make sure that you call them out as nice-to-have. So something like, which would be at Mars, but ideally this person will have fast-moving consumer goods experience, as an example. Or ideally this person will have worked in a veterinary environment before. But don't make that the priority and don't have that top, because what you're doing is now, when we're looking at skills-based hiring, is immediately just removing those people. And most of them will be women as well. And then finally, remove degree and experience requirements on there as well, unless they are genuinely required. So the key for me there is, unless you genuinely need someone for some reason to have 3 years experience, remove it. Because what you're doing is saying to someone, particularly women and particularly returning mothers, is saying to them that you haven't had this most recent experience, so we're not going to consider you, so they're not going to apply. So here is your gospel, and I had to include another gift there, this real good. Here is your gospel of 6 things to start in 2024 on your job ads. So number 1, keep it concise. Make sure that you're giving people the opportunity to actually read your job. 2, talk directly to your audience, don't talk through them. We work in a world where authenticity is so key, and being able to connect with someone directly is so important. Focus on what's in it for the candidate. So think like the candidate. And this is something I really urge you all to do, is when you're writing your job ads or when you're talking to hiring managers to write their job ads, think like a candidate. What does a candidate want to hear, and what will make a candidate engage with you? Let the job do the talking. Define success early on and be inclusive from the outset. At risk of sounding like Tim Cook or Steve Jobs at an Apple event, there is one more thing, and I deliberately left this to the end. For the love of God, please include your salaries. We work in a world now where LinkedIn, Google, any number of other jobs platforms will guess your salary for you and put it on your job ad. So you're not removing people from your audience by including it. You're actually removing potential candidates by not including it. Show me the money. That's what candidates want to see. And there's no problem if your salary is out of band, because people will still apply if they love the job. They will reach out and say, hey, you've put this. I want a tiny bit more. Is that something we can talk about? But people will really appreciate it. The caveat there is I appreciate, it's tough. I work for a business where we hire, at any one point, we've got about 1,200 job ads to 1,500 job ads live. There's tons of hiring managers that don't engage with that. But just be the change agent in your roles. If you're a hiring manager, if you're a recruiter, make that change yourself and others will follow. Let's connect. So I'm more than happy to stay around, answer any questions. I think we'll have some questions now anyway. But yeah, would love to connect with anyone as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. Big round of applause, please.